Welcome back to Talent Thrives Here, our podcast where we talk to people managing people. Our special guest today is Mr. Julien Klein, currently in Montreal, Canada. Julien, nice to see you this morning. How are you doing?
Good, good. You?
Great, great, thank you. You and I share some common threads in our career that we've been around the film and television business for many years in different studios. You've worn different hats than I have. You've worn several hats: flame and nuke artist, compositor, studio manager, artist manager, HR partner, and you've been at companies like Scanline VFX, Rodeo Effects, many other studios, and trade organizations. And if I looked at your IMDb, you've got things like Game of Thrones, Star Wars, Deadpool, so many cool credits, too many to list right now. But I know recently you've pivoted,
Yeah.
and so what I've just described is probably old news, or it's 3, 4, 5 years old now. But I really want to talk about what you're doing now. I know you're doing some coaching with creative people in studios, so let's talk about that. What are the reasons that 2 or 3 reasons people would come to you, and what kind of thing do you do on a daily basis to help the people you're serving right now?
Yeah, well, the guiding star, I would say, always been like being excited by what I do, which is a curse and a benefit at the same time. You basically have to find out really what you are aligned with compared to being facing the fact that something doesn't work anymore. So for me, it was never like, oh, I'm bored with what I'm doing. It was more like I'm called with that new side of the work. So first, I was in love with the light. So that comes to compositing, and I really wanted to understand composition, so photography and all that. And then when I understood that, I wanted to understand the people that are taking care of the light. That's why I went to management, and I really enjoyed under because people are coming to VFX and animation and every kind of video games and all those fields by passion.
Yep.
You don't go that because you have a business plan in hand. It's just because you like it, you're excited by it, and then
Right.
when you discover the industry, you realize, oh, this is an industry, and I'm just a part of it. And actually, people have interest, and so you understand the mechanics of it, and so sometimes people losing their flame into that process. And I really wanted to understand why I lost mine in the process. And I wanted to
Right.
get back on having the full energy that I had at the beginning, because life is too short to do something you really don't like or you're not
Hmm.
excited by. So it was all about understanding that. That's why I went also to coaching, because for me it was like I need to understand the human behavior, the human choices we made all around creativity. That's why also now I'm specialized as a coach for creative, because there is that side of me, and I can describe this in really two simple things. For me, it's like 80% psychology and 20% systems for any
Right.
business.
Hmm.
So I hope
Excellent.
that answered a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I think of you've done it, I've done it. We've been at studios late at night. People are grinding away on overtime, and
Yeah.
a lot of other industries, people would have put up their hands and gone, "This is outrageous. I'm not doing this." Going
Hmm.
home,
Yeah.
or you're gonna have to pay me massive overtime, and you're gonna have to, but again, I think in a lot of creative industries, we've just said, look, this is my art, this is my passion. It's
Hmm.
mixed with a number of things, but I'm going to keep going because
Yeah.
my name is on the movie. My credit is there. I have to make sure that, and again, I think I'm probably singing to the choir here, but we both had these things where teams stay, right? They
Yeah.
stay overnight, sometimes late at night, or where they pull 60, 70, 80 hours a week in a row, sometimes for many weeks, because that's just the business, right? Whether
Hmm.
it's good or not is another question, but so it's interesting, I take your point that a lot of people come into the business early and they just have lots of passion, and there's a disconnect at some point, right? Where they
Yeah.
realize, is this really worth it? And my joke for a million years was always, hey, we're in the entertainment business and we're making stuff to entertain people, but none of us have enough time to entertain ourselves because we're just working, right? Or
Yes.
we're in
Yes.
family entertainment, but there's no time to raise a family, right? Because
Mm. Yeah.
you're always working. And so you're kind of like married to the business. I worked in advertising years ago. It felt similar. People burned really hot, fast, kind of in the beginning of their careers, and then they kind of sort of try to find a plateau somewhere that works, you know.
Yeah. And
And
I
as
really
it,
believe in the cycle because you have the cycle when you start, which is really high energy, and you fully focus on that.
yeah,
Then you grow, and basically there is other interest, and there's sometimes family coming in, or
exactly.
whatever come into the place. So for me, it's also a question of now I'm 41. It's all about balance and
Yeah,
performance because I don't believe of high performer. My father is also a track and field champion,
yeah,
and the fact that recovery is as important that performing for me was always in the back of my mind, but I did never listen to that at the beginning of the career because you just
yeah,
want to prove yourself and blah blah blah. So
yeah,
now it's all about finding the right system for you to be able to recover,
yeah,
being able to re-energize yourself also by looking at some movies that inspiring you for your lighting or something like this, taking picture, having a walk,
yeah,
just taking time to acknowledge the fact that you you are a body, you have a spirit, and
yeah,
passion is cool, but to really contribute to the business you are in, you have to balance that system that we call the human in a
yeah.
way that benefits for everyone because it's really selfish not to recover somehow. It's
Well,
you know
I remember like I was in HR at a couple studios, and we would track, the overtime,
yeah
and I said, and then we talked to producers and say, like, what, especially in animation, what's the quota look like? Are they doing well? Because that was one you could easily track, how many seconds per week and so on.
yeah
And it was like sort of a diminishing returns. We've done 60 hours a week for the last 5 weeks. We should probably just send everyone home
yeah
because they're burnt out. Like we have an army of zombies and we're paying overtime on them because they're
yeah
exhausted and their
yeah
fire's burnt out and they're just clocking hours, but they're not moving at the same pace. If, like you're talking about, they need the recovery phase. They need like,
yeah
there was one film years ago. I remember we did sprints like every other week. We do a 60, then a 40, a 60, and a 40, and a 60, back and forth
yeah
with the idea that the 40-hour week hopefully would be go home and do your laundry,
yeah yeah
have a life for a minute. Okay, now
yeah
we're doing 60 again. Or it was two 40s and then a 60.
yeah
But we would broadcast that months in advance because it was a lighting pipeline and we could see what was going to happen. And we'd say, look, here's a projection. But rather than just do a bunch of 60s at the end and kill ourselves, we have enough inventory now. Let's start doing 160, then a couple 40s, to
yeah
try and
yeah
throttle it up and down. Otherwise, as you know, like I know artists that have been flown out to save the end of a movie and they're working like 100 hours a week.
yeah yeah
And they're getting massive overtime, but when they finish that film, they're done. They
yeah
they need they need 5 or 6 weeks off to like recalibrate, what Earth looks like and what grass is, and what the sky looks like. Too many hours in the studio.
And even that, after you went so high into the red zone, your body is recording that information. So I
Yeah,
went to a phase at some point. I went to the studio and I felt bad. I felt off because my body was connecting the studio to feeling exhausted.
yeah,
So it's really a cycle that if you coming back to the sport analogy, if you overwork, you start to eating your muscle.
right, right,
So you not only stop growing, you
yeah,
basically deteriorating your
yeah,
performance. So I think that's and with all the respect and yeah, all the respect with business owner, I think what they've forgot to include in their strategy most of the time is the recovery and the
right,
management of those cycle because you can definitively ask a lot to someone which have the passion for the work,
yeah,
but sometimes you have to protect them from themselves,
yeah,
especially at the beginning of their career. The more they advance and senior, the more they know that.
yeah,
But I think it's the responsibility also, not only for the artists themselves, but also for the business if they want to thrive. That's why I call the 20% system, is to integrate that into the production phase. And, I'm not naive. I'm really familiar with the production cycle and the delivery. I was a camper myself. So This
Yeah.
is all what I want also to make sure um, it's part of the system,
Right.
the business itself.
Yeah, no, very good points. And I think, leadership, wherever they are in whatever company, need to be really cognizant of that. Like, hey, the troops are burnt out. This is not going to, it's not sustainable. The other thing, I was watching a podcast this morning about endorphins and sort of almost like a trauma response where people get addicted to something,
Yeah,
whether they're aware of it or not. And sometimes it's this sort of thing. The overtime has a rush.
yeah,
You're a hero. You're saving the day,
yeah.
right? And
Especially in film.
then you're like, I need that hit again of being a
Yeah,
hero,
yeah,
right? And then, then you're 40, 45 going, I got no more hero left in me. I burnt it all out 20 years ago.
yeah,
So it's that maturity or ability to go, no, we need to slow this down for a minute, or can we push back on the client and really test the delivery, or but
yeah,
that's not to the average artist. That's not usually their ability, because they maybe are not privy to that kind of a conversation. But I think leadership needs to get in there sometimes. And like, I remember
yeah,
being on a show a million years ago where it was a series, and we were just starting to work on episode 1, 2, 3,
yeah.
and there was some work from episode 8 that they wanted to publish in a magazine in the UK.
Okay.
And we're like, well, we're not even working on episode 8. We're not going to be working on episode 8 till next year. And they're like, heard you. Stop what you're doing. We need episode 8 right now.
Oh
And
wow.
I was just like, what? I've got 250 people working on your next episode, and you're like, we don't care. We want episode 8. So it was
Yeah,
just made no sense. So there was negotiation back and forth, like, hey, what do
yeah.
you really need from episode 8? Like, it's not even ready yet. We can't even shoot episode 8. You haven't finished shooting. Like, so, and it boiled down to literally a few stills that they wanted to publish in some trade magazine, right? So we're like,
Got it.
okay, great. Now we
Yeah,
can get back to episode 3 again, and 2, and like the stuff that's actually needs to get done by next Friday, right? But
yeah. That's a
people
really
don't
good point. It's
yeah,
the and that's also what I build all my tactics, I would say, and what I provide into the coaching session is this is all based on the fact, this happens in real production. I recall at Rodeo we had Game of Thrones, and this was the big thing for Rodeo. They were known for um, basically matte painting initially, and then they expanded with Creator, and now it's like one of the best studio. And I'm not sure if I can say that, but the client was really tough because they knew everybody wanted to be part
sure.
of it.
Yeah.
So they were like kind of I don't know, especially which producer specifically, but I, I I got it from our crew in at Rodeo. They were really extremely demanding for what
Sure.
they because they knew they could.
Yeah,
And
but don't you find, sorry to interrupt, but Julian, I mean, any hot show feels like that. Like Marvel movies, and
yeah,
I find if it's got a buzz around it, then it becomes ultra competitive for the studios. They all want to work
yeah.
on a piece of it somewhere so that they can say, look, we worked on this amazing project.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the huge benefits for the
Yeah.
studio. But what I meant by that is that it's even more important to have a resilient team with that type of client because they're gonna eat
Yeah.
you up. They're
Yes.
gonna destroy your team, and if you're not ready, if you're not resilient, then it can cost you your business, even though you have
Yes.
your name on that franchise. So,
Yeah.
and all the credit to Rodeo because they really think of their I really like the way they think of their crew as a sport team.
Right.
They have to take care of the performer while
Yeah.
you have all that kind of type of position on the
Hmm.
field. And I like that a lot. Netflix is really different. They're thinking more in a hub and spoke
Right.
strategy, which is a
Yeah.
bit different. Every little unit have their speciality, and
Sure.
so it can work in different constellation configuration.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, the one that works long term on the best project are the one that are the more resilient.
Right. Right. So
which
let
obvious.
me pivot for a second. I just want to get to, if I was an artist and I had to come to Julian, what am I coming in for? Like, what am I going to get from the coaching, or give me an idea on like how that looks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I was a potential client of yours.
Well, the best you can get is a set of perspective because I was in a different role. So, C-suite, HR, artists, and usually I'm really good also with people that move from individual contributor to manager
Yeah. Sure.
or entry-level manager to
Yeah.
expert manager, like a lead to supervisor or
Yeah.
supervisor to VFX soup. Because basically that little sensitivity of because I think in this field more than any other field, people can smell the bullshit
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
they really really sensitive to that. So if you want to get them in your team, you
Yeah.
have to be honest with yourself first and not pretending or playing a role of being the leader. No,
Right.
you really have to be clear about why you're here. So that's why it's 80% psychology. We're going to work on yourself first. Then you're going to be clear to talk to others in a more inspiring way. So people are going to have fun. Also, there is a lot of empathy. So you're going to understand the human needs. This is really the Tony Robbins part that I integrated a lot. So we understand better your team, not only why they don't deliver at their top or assign the best person for this task and all that, which is like the basics. But then the next layer would be why this person is not performing, maybe because they more drives by this kind of human needs. So
Mm.
that could work better. It's like another layer of optimization that I bring
Right.
on the table for the leader to be more in confidence to say also, okay, and that will help them to be more respected. It's like, oh, whenever I work with that person, I feel like they get the 100% out of me in a positive
Right.
way. They
Yeah.
really use my whole palette of skills, and I feel understood. I feel part of the team, and that's really exciting. I want to be back in that production team, not the other one.
Right. Right.
That's the leader I'm training.
Yeah. No, that's great because I often think it feels like high school where there's the cool kids and then there's the other people. And
Yeah,
but it's like, how do I become the cool kid, or how do I work on this cool team, or how do I have more fun at work rather than the drudgery of, and I've seen some shows where at the beginning no one wanted to work on it. They're like, I don't think it's not as sexy, so to speak, as the other
yeah,
show that's going on, or two other shows in the studio. But if you have the vision as a leader, even a director, somebody on the team makes it their mission. They rally people
yeah,
towards this project. They can change the morale with their
absolutely.
words, with their spirit. With I remember being on a film years ago where one of the guys, I joke it's almost like a Braveheart just before the big battle scene or something, where you ride around on your horse and you rally the troops and everything. That
Yeah,
but it does work on you need to have some passion and spirit, and you will attract other people, and I've seen it. You've seen it too. Like
yeah.
you can lift a lot of boats with a charismatic leader or somebody who is able to get into the psychology of what's happening and shift it, right?
Yeah, and the
um,
beauty of that is that you don't need to be, a really masculine guy. You can be really a shy woman, and that
yeah.
works as good as the big guy.
Right.
Because you
Right.
really leveraging. And sometimes vulnerability is the most powerful way to get your team on board. So
Right.
that's why for me, psychology is so powerful when you really use it as the right tool in an honest way.
Yeah.
And that can infect all the teams. They're like, "What's going on out there? I want the same mood. I want the same passion in my team." So then you have
Yeah.
a positive cycle, the inverse of vicious cycle. It's like, yeah, you get
Right.
you know what
Yeah,
I
no,
mean.
but I take your point too. I mean, that kind of introspective leader, or someone who listens really well and understands the team
Yeah,
personally, almost, better than just kind of, uh, two-dimensional kind of slogans and that sort of thing. I think
yeah,
because then you'll want to work with that person again. And if they
yeah,
move to
yeah.
another studio, you'll chase them if you can. Like, hey, I'd love to work
A-
together. And
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
went to the meaning of company. It's a Latin word for sharing bread with someone.
Mm,
Com, comp is um, with someone, and pan is pain in French, which means bread. So it's
sure.
really
Yeah.
the fact that you are sharing bread could be also a sample, right? You're
Yeah.
sharing the work, and so it's really fellowship, friendship, or not like family, but really like understanding each other and making the best of the work we can do together. That's
Great.
the best team I saw.
Yeah, it's a nice analogy. I like it. I'm just conscious of the time, Mr. Klein.
Yep.
Um, if people want to find you, they can find you on LinkedIn or your website is
Monexpansion.com. So Mon, M-O-N, like the French side, expansion. And it's all related to the fact that as a leader, you're going to expand. Of course, you're going to have contraction and you're going to deal with it too.
yeah,
But the expansion is really the expansion of the scale and expertise you're going to bring on your team.
yeah. And your prime sort of, if I could ask a client avatar, would be leaders and managers in creative industries. Am I correct?
Yes, whether
Yeah,
it's a business that they really want to provide that to a group of leaders or individual leaders that a business want them to grow, I'm the person they need to reach out now.
excellent. Good. Thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate your time, and hopefully we can connect maybe in 6 or 8 months and talk about some more stuff.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Julian.